I am Archprelate Alzor. The Tapestry of Time. As each race evolved and began to form the first steps towards civilization, they would begin to interact with each other. Conflict, trade, expansion and the mixing with one another saw many advances, developments and divides form. The two greatest civilizations to ever rule over Mortual, the Elven Draconian Empire and the Dwarven Dwinmore alliances, would meet to create the Tapestry of Time, a magical feat like no other. This tapestry would chronicle every major event in the world's history. Historians and chroniclers from every corner of the world would add their knowledge to it every 100 years, creating a visual timeline for all future races to learn from. Now, before we delve into the timeline itself, it is important that we understand that there is no recorded history before this first point, and much has been left to conjecture. The tapestry itself, whilst a chronicle of information and history, much of it is still left up to debate by theologians, scholars and academics. The first trade fair. The Draconian Empire and Dwinmore alliances agreed to create the Tapestry of Time, creating the first event in recorded history and a golden age of 246 years. The slave rebellions. Human states wishing independence from the Dwinmore alliances begin to rebel. With the help of Draconian aid and agents, these states begin to unify under the rebel leader Alicia. She openly defies her dwarven masters. War proper. Conflict erupts between the Draconian and Dwinmore after it is revealed the elves have been aiding the human rebellions. First shots are over the Diamond Pass in the Winterlands, as it is rich in resources both sides need for their war efforts. It spills into many regions of the world, and a multitude of races fight on both sides in this war. Creation of the Orc. Elven Archmagi create soldiers to replenish their losses during the war. Known as Orc, the Elvish word for slave, their ferocity and great strength turn the tide in many battles. The Cataclysm. The 112-year-long war ends at the Great Mountains when magical energies explode, killing hundreds of thousands on both sides and splitting the continent in two. Neither side take responsibility, but agree to peace terms. The Blue Man. A powerful mage appears visiting many nations, telling them to settle any disputes they may have peacefully from here on in, as they must save their strength for the great battle ahead. He is captured many times for questioning, but always seems to escape captivity. The gods walk Mortual. A sorcerer claims to have opened a portal to the gods. Colossal horrors march on the world. Many believe it to be the gods of the great hells themselves. Many are corrupted by the oncoming darkness, and all hope seems lost until a unified human, elf and dwarven force marches on the forces of darkness, throwing them back into the portal with the help of the Blue Man to close the seal. The Staff of Power. The Blue Man, impressed with the unity, agrees to help all races of the world. He breaks his staff into several pieces, giving one to the elves, dwarves and humans. These items possess the power to help lead each race into another golden age. Upon accepting, the Blue Man disappears. The White Council. Each race comes together to form the White Council, whereby all disputes may be peacefully concluded through reason and understanding. The Birth of Nations. The Draconian Empire and Dwinmore alliances relinquish territory to the other races under their rule, forming the countries of Elise, Asona, Kazarun, Kazarid and Elnar, each as independent states in their own right. Broken Promise. Elise, under its new emperor, becomes insular and breaks down trade with Asona and begins a blockade. After promising at the White Council not to begin any conflicts, Elise invades, justifying its actions as a holy war. Old grudges and alliances. With the exception of the dwarves of Kazarid and Kazarun, the other nations go to the aid of Asona, eventually pushing back the Elysian troops. The true horror of the conflict becomes apparent, as in the name of God, a quarter of the Asona population has been wiped out by the Elysian. Arcane Masters. It comes to light that the Elysian Empire was under the influence of another, known as the Elder, a dragon of great power. The White Council immediately begin the hunt to find the dragon and bring it to answer for its actions. The Three Hunters. Haradin, Hurin and Beregost managed to unite the nations of Mortual to face a threat from another plane. Some believe the gods of the Great Hells have broken through to our world, bent on our destruction. The three of them, with the newly formed White Council, remind the elder races of human, dwarf and elf of alliances past, and together drive the evil forces back, sealing the rift. Strangers of the Deep. During a civil uprising within the Elysian Empire, a war fleet is sent to blockade the rebellion forces and is sunk in a baptism of fire. It becomes apparent a golden dragon is responsible, for reasons unknown. Breaking of an empire. Elise accepts the cries for independence from its subjects, and the nation of Demia is birthed. Soon after, Damalor breaks away in peaceful protests. While not popular with many in the Elysian Senate, the splintering of the empire is the easiest option after a long period of conflict for its people. Arcane restriction. Magic and the use of the arcane is outlawed in Elise after a sorcerer attempts, unsuccessfully, to assassinate the Empress. Many arcane users within the Empire flee to the Terror of Dynatir for refuge. The First Demian War. Over a period of 5 years, a powerful lich named Morin begins to recruit and raise undead forces and begins a campaign against the people of Demia. Many thousands die. Aid arrives from Elise and Damalor, but the forces join with Morin. They march on the seal, wiping out all resistance along the way. Opening the seal, more horrors spill onto Mortual. Lasting 20 years, many are left dead. But Halil, the successor to the Elysian Empire, and his companion Anatar, whom it is said to be an angel from the astral planes himself, fight back with the support from every nation. The defeat of Morin and his undead hordes is bittersweet, however. The Elf King Nil dies in battle at Dumrosa. Halil sacrifices himself and seals the rift. Signs and portents. It is said Halil actually survived and now walks the Great Hells in search of his friend Anatar. Many mortuals make their pilgrimage to the site of the seal and pray such a terrible thing may never happen again. It is decided eventually that around the seal a fortress should be erected, closed off from the common folk, and watched continuously, as a first line of defence against the dark hordes, that may one day break the seal and attempt to walk Mortual once more. A new race emerges. From deep within our world, a race of magically gifted dark-skinned elves. From a plane known as the Underworld, seeking trade and commerce with the other nations of Mortual, the humans and dwarves agree while the elves of Elnar refuse, seeing them as abominations. Peace in our time. Tensions between Elnar and the people of the Underworld after the atrocities started by the elves, both sides prepare for war. The golden dragon is seen flying above the battlefield of the first engagement, and the elves leave with no bloodshed on either side. The Great Exodus. Elves of Elnar begin to leave their lands, sailing west to discover what lies across the ocean. Those that remain close off its borders from the rest of the nations of Easterim. The last words from the elven emissary to each nation is, "We no longer will contribute to the White Council and relinquish our part of the staff to do as you wish. From this day the borders will be closed and you will forget us." Some, however, decide to stay within the White Forest in a hope that their kin will one day decide to return home. Freedom of the Orc. With the exclusion of Elnar, the Orc race they created are given lands in Asona to make their own. It is the last time an elven ship is seen, as the last orcs are landed on the shores of Asona, near the Emerald City. Gods and Stars. A man similar in description to the man in blue is seen across the world, claiming to know what truly happened during the cataclysm of the First Age and why the Golden Dragon has returned. He is last seen entering Elnarth, and all news of the person stops abruptly. Right, so that's the Tapestry of Time. Everything after the First Age, the Age of Discovery, all that history has been created in-game by players in various fantasy campaigns that I've done over the years. So the idea is with Tapestry of Time, so it's recorded history, sort of like the Bay of Tapestry, but it's weaved in. Certain parts are allowed to be seen by the public, others are, the majority of it's hidden away for world leaders and those of the White Council and things. This becomes more apparent in future campaigns that I've done, which I've not added to the actual timeline yet because there's some disparity, and we've jumped back and forth in campaigns, like we've gone to the Second Age and then jumped forward and stuff. But yeah, so all this history has actually been created over about a span of about 15 years of playing with players. So some of them have actually been there pretty much throughout all of that. The biggest of which is if you go back to the start of the Age of Strife and the Three Hunters. That was one of my longest running campaigns. That lasted about 2 years real time with the same 3 players, and that was one of my favourite campaigns to run. These 3 heroes started off as adventurers and actually went all the way to become basically demigods at that point. I hope you've enjoyed it. That's the history up until sort of modern day, as it were, of Mortual. There's various bits in between that aren't, hugely important lore dumps, which will be apparent in other videos when we look at the nations in more depth and some of the lands and the world. And we'll also see things like why the elves left to go back to the old lands of Draconia and things like that. Up you'll see things like the Broken Mountain in the north. There's the actual Deadlands and that great cataclysm, and the reason why the continent's now split in 2. That's all from an actual in-game and something that a player actually did. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. That was the Tapestry of Time. Right, so next will be like some of the intricacies, so little bits about technology, the dragon gates and things, how magic and money works, all the sort of basic bog standard backstory of stuff. Again, the idea being that you can use any rule set that you want with this campaign setting, as it were. And then after that we go to the nations of Easterim and all the major countries, and we'll look at the cities in more depth and the people and the places, and then after that it'll be things like notable heroes and characters that have played in the world. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next video.